Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lynn, and this is our summer-long staycation destination series. Every Friday during the Noon Report, we'll spotlight a staycation destination that's not far from home and won't break the bank. This week, we're taking you to the Johnstown Flood National Memorial in South Fork, Pennsylvania.
My name is Elizabeth Shope, and I am a park ranger at Johnstown Flood National Memorial. The Johnstown flood had a huge impact on the Conemaugh Valley, and when the South Fork Dam broke on Friday, May 31st, 1889, it sent 20 million tons of water heading towards Johnstown, Pennsylvania, but also it went through several small towns before it got to Johnstown. So it went through the towns of South Fork, Mineral Point, East Conemaugh, and Woodvale before it got to Johnstown.
Wow. The summer resort was used by Pittsburgh's industrial tycoons. Is that right?
Yes. The South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club was a group of wealthy industrialists from Pittsburgh, and they used this area as a quiet, relaxing place to get out of the busy, noisy industrial city of Pittsburgh. So they would take a train from Pittsburgh to the town of South Fork, and from there it was about a 2-mile carriage ride from South Fork up to the clubhouse and cottages. So it was quite private and a quiet place to spend time.
Yeah. There were problems, however, with the dam.
The South Fork Dam was originally built by the state of Pennsylvania to supply water to the canal basin in Johnstown. It only served its original purpose for a few years. It was then owned by the Pennsylvania Railroad, a local congressman, and then the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. The lakebed was empty when the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club bought it in the late 1870s, and they rebuilt the dam, let it fill back in. But it was quite different than the dam when it was originally built. It didn't have any outlet pipes any longer, and there was no control tower to let any of the water out of the lake. So on May 31st, when you get this big rainstorm, the only way to let water out of the lake is through the spillway, which would become clogged with debris because a fish screen was inserted over the spillway to keep the fish that the club had stocked in the lake here. So the water is rising higher and higher to the top of the dam, but unfortunately, with all of the changes, there is no way to let any of the water out.
What was the official death toll in that flood?
There were 2,209 victims of the Johnstown flood of 1889.
It was such a tragedy. It garnered national and even worldwide attention. How did nurse and American Red Cross founder Clara Barton pitch in following the tragedy?
Clara Barton came to Johnstown a few days after the flood, and she brought with her a team of about 50 doctors and nurses. She built Red Cross hotels in Johnstown. So if folks needed clean clothes, a place to sleep at night, a warm meal, they could go to a Red Cross hotel and they would be taken care of. And she stayed in Johnstown for months, helping out in any way that she could.
Yeah, and my understanding is she was not a young woman at that time.
No, she was in her late 60s.
So when folks come here to the memorial, they get to see a topographical display showing not only the lay of the land, but the railroad path and the story of impact as the water broke through the dam, taking out buildings and people in its path. Anything you want to share about what else people can see here at the memorial?
There is no fee to come to the memorial. Visitors today are able to view the remains of the dam from the visitor center windows. We have a 35-minute movie that plays in our visitor center. And outside, folks are able to walk out onto the remains of the dam on both sides. You actually stand on top of the original dam. They can also drive past the clubhouse and some of the original cottages from the 1880s.
Yeah, this is where the resort was. This is where it all started. For me, listening to the audiobook of The Flood by historian David McCullough really helped paint a deeper picture for me of the lives that intertwined on that tragic day and the many months following as the city was restored. Are there any other ways you recommend that people could get steeped in some of the history in preparation before coming, but then, of course, coming to see it all here?
So if visitors go to our National Park Service website, they can learn a little bit of the background on the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, the history of the South Fork Dam, but also our movie tells the story as well as our visitor center exhibit. So even if people don't have any knowledge of the Johnstown flood before they get there, we have park rangers available and our exhibits will provide them the information that they need to know. And then after they're in the visitor center, they can actually go out and see some of those things like the remains of the dam in person as well.
Yeah, and in Johnstown today, the stone bridge that much of the debris got hung up on, that is still there, correct?
Yes, the 7-arch railroad bridge is still standing in Johnstown.
Anything else you want to share with us?
What I've learned is the more you delve into it, there are many layers. It becomes quite a complex story.
Yeah, I think that's what was fascinating for me, is to learn more about the individuals. It almost hurts more because you know a little bit more about the personalities and some of their relationships. Yeah. And these were real lives.
Right. I think something in our visitor center that folks are always interested in is the story of 16-year-old orphan survivor Victor Heiser, because you actually get to hear his story of May 31st. In his own words, he's recalling all of this later in life. And that's just one of the many stories of people who had lived through the Johnstown flood.
We hope you've enjoyed coming along on our staycation destination. You can hear all the podcasts online. Join us next week as we visit a new destination in New York State.